The Invest in Her podcast is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation and producer of the new movie, Show Her the Money. And I am so excited to have on today the co-founder of Entreprenista. It's an incredible community for women entrepreneurs. So let's welcome to the show, Stephanie Cartin. How are you, Stephanie?
I am great. Great to see you, Catherine, and thanks for having me on.
Nice to see you too. And I know Entreprenista and Show Her the Money were both in Las Vegas at the Alibaba conference this past year. So that was super fun. And now we're going to be doing a screening of Show Her the Money together. I believe it's in February, right?
Yes, starting the end of February, we're going to do the virtual screening, and then we'll be doing our Entreprenista Show Her the Money virtual panel event together for the community on March 5th. We are super excited.
I'm excited. We've been doing this 100-city live in-person tour all around the world with the film. And now we're so excited that we're rolling out this virtual opportunity that you're talking about for large groups like Entreprenista as well as corporations. So I'm excited for that new aspect of being able to reach more people with the film. I know so many people are excited about it, but they're always like, how can more people see it? Everybody needs to see this film. So we're excited to do the virtual, and we're super excited to team up with Entreprenista. So today I'm excited. On this show, we're going to talk about how you built out this community. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you personally. Where did you grow up and how did you get involved in this community? Because I know you have a very exciting story of building up a company and having an exit. So we're going to talk about that today.
Yes, well, I grew up in Rockville, Maryland, which is right outside of Washington, D.C.
Oh my gosh, wait a minute. I grew up right outside D.C. also.
Wait, where?
Yes, I was born in Alexandria. So, we grew up neighbors. That's cool.
I know. We're following each other's footsteps from growing up there to Florida, all the places.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, I actually did a lot of musical theater growing up. I always loved being on stage and performing in front of people and making people smile and happy. I feel like I was, this born entreprenista. And as a child, I was always selling things. I got my start very early on, actually selling Girl Scout cookies. And I was very excited. At only, I think I was 7 or 8 years old, I was a top seller. And I remember just learning the impact and seeing, when you have a product or a service and people are in need of it and they want it and they buy it, just the impact that can make. And that really just carried with me throughout my entire life. So when it was time to go to college, I actually wanted to go to school for theater, but I wasn't allowed to. And I ended up going to school for hospitality and business management. And while I was at Cornell in the hotel school, it's actually when Facebook first started and we got access to it early on. And I remember thinking, Catherine, I was like, this is going to change everything I'm learning about in college, but I didn't exactly know quite how back then because everything was so new, but I knew I always needed to stay on the forefront with social media. So fast forward, I graduate from college and I start working for Marriott at the time. And, these social platforms are really starting to get quite popular. And I had a lot of friends starting businesses and they were coming to me asking for help with sales and marketing strategies for their business. And I kept saying, you have to start using social media. This is going to be the future of everything. This is how you can connect to your customers. So I was one of the early people starting to create these social media strategies in the very early days. And then I met my business partner, Courtney, through a mutual friend who is also an entreprenista. And we decided to partner together to start this agency, Socialfly, on the side of our full-time jobs. So we really worked nights and weekends for 10 months before we said, all right, this is going to be a real business. We have to go all in and do it or not do it at all. So we decided to launch Socialfly full time, and this is going back 12 plus years ago now.
I love that. And Socialfly really was one of the first, not only with social media, but also you represented like influencers, right?
Yeah, so we started really in the early days, sharing with brands to start working with influencers because they were really shaping the future of content. And to be able to reach more people at scale, you really needed to work with these influencers. And Catherine, I'm telling you, when we started Socialfly, we had to back then sell the importance of why social media was going to be so important for brands. We were teaching everything about all of these brands about getting on Facebook. And back then it was Twitter, of course, and then Instagram launched. And a lot of these companies just didn't understand everything and had to trust us. This is the next way to be able to talk to people. And clearly that has what has been evolving over the years.
I love that. Well, it is interesting how you were an early adapter in all of this. Mm-hmm. And now you all did a big exit this year. Am I right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I think every entrepreneur that's listening, they dream someday of having an exit. So tell me about that. Who bought your company? How thrilling was that? I want to hear the excitement of this for you and Courtney.
I will tell you, when we started to build Socialfly, our agency business, we initially were not building the business to sell. Courtney and I started the business in our early and mid 20s, and we were starting a business that we were so passionate about. We loved creating these social media strategies and seeing the impact it was making for these businesses. Well, about 2 years into starting the agency, I was speaking at an event and I connected with another gentleman who was speaking at the event as well. And he ended up introducing us to one of our mentors, who I believe you also got to meet at the Alibaba event, Carrie Cartin. Carrie Cartin is the founder of an agency called Likeable Media. And he introduced us to Carrie, and she really changed the path and the trajectory of our business. She agreed to meet with us. She was a few years ahead of us in business. And I remember Courtney and I went into her office, and she had these beautiful glass walls and windows in her office. And I remember thinking wow, we can build an agency like this. I know we can do this too. And she took us under her wing and started mentoring us. And Catherine, she told us, she said, you both need to read this book. It's called Built to Sell. So she gives us this book and this assignment to read this book. We read this book, and then we realize, wow, we can be building a business that actually can have more value in it than just, taking home money from the business every single year. We can actually be building this asset. And whether or not we decide ultimately we want to sell the business, we can have that opportunity. So Carrie went on to mentor us for the next really decade, and now has become just a close friend and confidant and fellow entreprenista as part of our community as well. But she really taught us everything in those early days about building a business to sell. So at that point, we started putting things into place in the business where we could create a sellable asset. And then over the next few years, because social media became, the most talked about subject and very hot in the industry, we actually started getting a lot of emails over the years from M&A advisors and other agencies that were interested in acquiring us. And we started going down this path of, entertaining these conversations every time we would get an outreach. And we realized, after kind of going down that road a few times and just exploring, that it was kind of taking us off course to actually being focused on building the business to ultimately have an exit. And then it also seemed like every time we were okay, we're ready to put the business up for sale, something would happen. So obviously we know there was, the pandemic in 2020. I had ended up having a very complicated pregnancy the year before. So everything kind of derailed our path. But then after 2020, we realized, now was the time for us to actually run our own process. So what that meant was we actually hired an M&A advisor and a fellow entreprenista. We hired a company called Tobin Leff, Mary McKinney. She helped us through the whole acquisition process. And this past February, we exited and sold the business to a company called True4 Media Group. And Courtney is still involved in Socialfly, running the day-to-day operations for the next year and a half.
Yeah, I met your partner, Courtney Spritzer, at the Vegas event, Alibaba, and was so glad that through her we connected. And you all have a podcast too, I want to mention.
Yes.
The Entreprenista podcast that I was just on, and that's a fabulous entree too. So what you all did was you sold that company to Trueform. She still's aligned with them, which often happens, I know, in merger acquisitions. And then you two started building out Entreprenista, the community for members to be able to connect, which I believe you have like 2,000 members now, right?
Yes, we now have over 2,000 members, and Entreprenista actually started as our podcast. So the podcast started over 6 years ago now. We just celebrated 6 years. We've done over 350 episodes over the past 6 years, interviewing incredible founders like yourself and sharing all of these stories. And that all resulted because of running the agency business. So many founders were reaching out to the two of us all the time, wanting to go out to coffee and pick our brain and just wanting to hear how we did it. And Courtney and I, you know us both now. We like to help absolutely everyone, but we realized very quickly it was physically impossible and not scalable to go out to coffee all day, every day and run our core business, which at the time was just Socialfly. So Catherine, we started thinking, how can we help as many founders as possible, but actually do it at scale? So our initial solve for this problem was to start our podcast. But then when everything happened in 2020, we were now getting so many messages from our listeners and followers, hearing things like, I lost my job during the pandemic. I want to start a business. Can you help us? Or I need to pivot. Can you help us? And that's when Courtney and I said, we have to go all in and build Entreprenista to now what we've done over the past 4 years, because everyone really needs the resources, support, and the community. So we were like, how can we put together everything that we've learned over the past decade plus in business and give this to a full community? So we launched the Entreprenista League on May 4th of 2021. So it's been about 3.5 years since the community has launched. And as you mentioned, we have over 2,000 women founders in the community, and everyone is in there connecting, networking, doing business together, helping each other, supporting each other. It is truly the most supportive and engaged community. And it has been, I would say, of everything we've created and done over the past 12 plus years in business, it has been not only the most rewarding thing that we've created and done, but the most impactful, because we see the results every single day and what happens when women come together to support each other.
I love that. And we need that connection. Someone was saying earlier, it could be a tough road being an entrepreneur, but not if you embrace a community like that gives you support, and here you are, building a company, and you come across an obstacle, and perhaps someone else in that community has had the same obstacle, and they can tell you how they overcame it or what resource you need to go through that. That's what I love about community. What do you do within your community? So you put on events, educational opportunities, that type of a thing? Like what all would they get by becoming a member of your amazing group?
Yeah, so the first thing is access to the community platform itself, where you can log in and instantly build connections and relationships with other founders. We do virtual learning and networking events every single week, and we also do in-person events as well. So we do a Founders Weekend event, which is a larger in-person event. We also host local meetups. So in different cities, our members are hosting local meetups in their cities, and then we help all of our members get featured, build their personal brands, and get their business out there. So we do a dedicated feature on all of our members on entreprenista.com. One of the, greatest rooms, we call it, in the community platform is the In Search Of room, because as a founder, think about how many questions you have every single day, from what business tool should I use for this? Or does anyone have a recommendation for a bookkeeper or a social media agency? Or is anyone trying this new platform for marketing? And you're instantly able to post and get answers from the community in real time. And then the other thing is just the friendships that are forming. I mean, members, I get DMs and text messages from members and calls every single day in the community saying, thank you for building this, because I now have like best friends who I can build my business with and who understand me and can relate to this. Because a lot of times I hear, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, it can be so lonely building a business, but it doesn't have to be when you're part of a community. And that's why we created it.
Yeah. And especially, I think people need to, my focus is on fundraising. I think it's so important that we have these communities to really help us, cheer us on, and connect us to resources, whether it be a line of credit or an angel investor or an introduction to a venture fund, all of those things. So I love what you've built. You're obviously very passionate about it. And I think it's great that you've walked the walk, talked the talk, built up your own business, exited it, and now you're showing other people how to do the same. So what tremendous gratification in that.
It's the best. And Catherine, I want to add one thing to what you just shared about fundraising, right? Because I know so many of your listeners want to hear about fundraising and how to access capital and resources. And so much of fundraising is about your network. And you probably say this all the time too, like your network is your net worth. And it is so true. Like Courtney and I have been able to build the businesses we have built because of the incredible relationships that we've created over the years. And we want to be able to open up all of those relationships to the members of our community to have just a little bit of an easier time building a business or raising capital, because it's really, really, really hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard when you have that right support system. So some of the events that we do in the community are office hours with experts. A lot of them, expert founders, a lot of them have fundraised for their business. A lot of these founders have been able to access grants for their business. And you also, of course, met Kat Weaver at the event as well. And Kat and Katie from Power to Pitch, they host office hours in the community. So we're always sharing these funding resources in the community, which is so important. We have to share our network and make introductions and connect people. That's how business gets done.
It's totally key. And I'm glad that you all do that as well. Also, I want to talk about the fact that, I just love when women are successful business people who end up paying forward and giving back as investors. And I know you're an angel investor now. So tell me a little bit about that, your foray into that arena, what type of businesses you like to invest in, and any story that you'd like to share about that particular aspect.
Yeah, I want to share with everyone how I actually learned about angel investing. So as I shared, Courtney and I, we bootstrapped our first business, Socialfly. We didn't know anything about raising capital, venture capital. It was not even in our vocabulary or radar when we first started Socialfly. And a friend of ours, his name is Ben Zaces. He has an angel syndicate and fund. It's called the Super Angel Fund. And I had seen that he was talking about investing in startups. And I got really curious. And I'm like, Ben, can you teach me about this? Can you share what you're doing? Like, what does this actually mean to be able to invest in startups? And this is going back now like 2017, 2018. So I remember he met with me and Courtney. We went out for breakfast. He started explaining everything to us. And I was thinking, I'm like, why is this not public information? Why am I having to go find this information and seek this information? And it seems like you have to be on this like inside club to get access to these deals, and they're not public. So he said the best way to learn how to angel invest is actually to invest. And he's like, I'm doing a syndicate for a company. You can put in only a couple $1,000s. You don't have to be, an LP in a fund and put in $50,000 to $100,000. You can put in $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 and just learn the process. So that's what I did. And Ben held my hand through the process and really started teaching me about angel investing. But I just found it so disheartening that I had to go seek out all of that information and it wasn't publicly available. Now with resources like yours and with everything that you're doing with this movie, Show Her the Money, and putting fundraising into the spotlight, there's much more of a conversation than there was, 6-7 years ago when I was first learning about everything. So, I dabbled in angel investing. I put a couple $1,000s into this first deal. And then I feel like I got addicted. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You can really diversify your portfolio and put in a couple $1,000s into some of these opportunities. And that money means so much to the founder, and it goes such a long way. And you can be this early investor in some of these really big opportunities. Now, I do want to caveat this stuff, and I'm sure you say this all the time on the podcast, like this is a very risky asset class, of course, but if you have the opportunity and you're an accredited investor, which a lot of people are and don't realize it, it can be a really great way to diversify your portfolio and make a really big impact. So I've had the opportunity to invest in probably like between 10 and 15 companies now over the past couple of years. And again, it doesn't have to be this large check of, $100,000. With a lot of these syndicates, you can invest only for a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up. That's a wonderful way to start. It's actually the way I started investing in individual companies. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I learned about venture capital that I realized why it made sense to do venture. And one of the things I love about it is it's kind of like a mutual fund. You're pooling your money with other people to build a fund that the general partners that have a background in this arena will get the deal flow for you, so you don't have to go look for the companies that you want to invest in, and will actually vet it for you as well. And that's what I love about the venture capital scenario, is that you're pooling your money with the other people. The general partners are finding the deal flow, vetting it for you, because who's got the time or knowledge to do that, and then deploying it to the ones that they think will be the most successful, perhaps even the next unicorn. And that, too, is a very exciting arena. So most people start in angel investing. I think it's actually more risky than the mutual fund type of thing that venture is, and also once you pool your money, you automatically have a portfolio of 20 to 30 or more companies in your portfolio, because everything that's in the fund then is in your portfolio, and then making it more risk adverse. So, and I think it's finding the fund that's investing in what matters to you. So I always say to people, the first thing they should think about is, what's the most important thing for you of where you want to make an impact, and then put your money in that fund. And it's kind of like just how investors shop for founders. They tend to invest in people they identify with. It's the same thing when you're shopping for, what venture capital fund should I invest in? You want to find general partners that you identify with and that they're investing in something that matters to you. Because impact investing can be profitable. And I think that's a big fallacy, that people think, I can't invest in something that makes an impact and won't make money. No, it can do both. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why I love Take and Show Her the Money on the road to explain to people it doesn't cost as much as you think to get involved. Many funds are $25,000. It could be taken from your pension fund and put over in this, make more money, make more impact. And so that's the beauty of what we're doing, right? With both of our entities.
Absolutely.
Our podcasts, with our communities, we're educating women on all these wonderful opportunities of how to grow a business or how to invest in someone else's great idea. We don't always have to be the one with the great idea. We could invest in someone that has the great idea, right?
That's my goal now. Not to start any more businesses. I want to just keep investing in incredible entreprenistas who have businesses and make impact that way.
100%. Well, thank you for the incredible work you're doing. Everyone should check out Entreprenista community. What is the website for that, for them to sign up?
Yes, you can head over to entreprenista.com/join to head over to join the Entreprenista League. And feel free to reach out to me personally. You can DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm at Steph Jill Cartin, or follow us over on Entreprenistas with an S at the end on Instagram. And I respond to all of my DMs. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help you in any way.
I love that. And on LinkedIn, for those that are just listening and not watching, it is Stephanie and it's Cartin, Cartin. You can find her. You can find me, Catherine Gray with a C and Gray with an A. We would both love for you to reach out and connect with us. We are here to provide resources for you entrepreneurs and for you wanting to learn how to become investors in angel investing and or venture capital. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Make it a great week. Thanks, Stephanie, for being a great guest, and make it a great day, everybody.